for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ingersoll, thank you for taking the time from your business in Sloansville to testify here today. It's great to hear all that you've accomplished in the face of tragedy. The committee appreciates you sharing your story. It's clear that reliable internet access is critically important for someone like you to get online and reach your customers. And I really agree wholeheartedly with the way you frame the issue in terms of being a public utility. We know that about 40% of rural Americans lack broadband internet access, and 25% of my home district doesn't have broadband subscription. Clearly, we need real investment in broadband services, but it also strikes me, and you spoke about this in your testimony, that like broadband, we need universal, affordable postal service that ensures that rural businesses can reach their customers. And so we spent a bit of time talking a lot about the rural broadband piece, and I would love to hear from you a bit more on the impact on rural communities if the postal service was privatized.
I have concerns about it being privatized, just because, like right now with UPS, FedEx, and these other carriers that are private companies, they charge rural surcharges, fuel surcharges, and all these sorts of things to deliver to these rural areas. The post office, makes it very accessible, and if you want to keep the barrier of entry low for e-commerce in general, the postal service is the only one that's really going to provide that service where you can be competitive with larger companies that have their own logistics networks and their own deals with carriers, to compete with a bigger advantage over someone who's just starting out. So I would say privatizing it would be a big concern to me, because you're going to cut out rural America is going to be cut out of the deal, or at the very least, you're going to increase the cost for people who are already, struggling.
So it would specifically hurt your business?
Yeah, it would specifically hurt me.
In terms of the overhead and the cost increases. You talked about controlled monopolies, another insight that I agree with. And the need to figure out how government needs to play a role, whether it is in partnership with private actors or otherwise, and specifically given the fact that rural communities, time and time again, particularly as we lurch towards privatization in almost every public sector, is leaving specifically rural communities behind, because they do not have the population centers to incentivize private actors to make the investment. And so while we might have access and have had access for some time, as you note, since 2008, we see the disproportionate disadvantages that the rural communities are struggling with. Could you speak a bit more about how the quality or lack thereof of your broadband access has really impacted your ability to conduct business?
Well, as e-commerce has evolved, buyer expectations have increased, so it's much more of a priority to process orders quickly and things like that. If your internet goes down and you have no other way to process those orders, it's going to negatively impact you. And as e-commerce continues to grow, competition increases. People in more urban areas with better access to internet are having a big advantage over their rural competitors because of that. I think it's essential to even the playing field in that regard.
Excellent. Thank you very much, man. I yield back.
Thank you.